Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Demetrius Johnson, and you're listening to MMA Latest News.com.
It's time to roll, baby.
What is up, guys, and welcome back to MMA Latest. We're here joined with Quilter, and finally, we have James Gallagher versus Cal Ellenor. Quilter, this has been one that's been built, 3-4 times now? But tonight, we finally, touch wood, see them in the cage tonight.
Yeah, man. It's just the fourth time they've actually scheduled this fight, so it's crazy to think it's actually going to happen at last. Oh,
yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? You know, it almost gives us hope that one day we see Khabib versus Tony Ferguson.
We have to wait for the fight to happen just to get that bit of hope. But yeah, it's mad. It's been cursed, this fight. So it's like a blessing to finally actually get to see it, because it answers so many questions that people have had about the fight.
Definitely, you know, as you mentioned, cancelled 3 times, was meant to go down. Well, yeah, 3 times before that. Obviously, it was meant to happen in February. I believe James Gallagher picked up an injury, or Cal Ellenor picked up an injury that time. Obviously, it was meant to take place September of last year. You know, it has become that Tony and Khabib of Bellator, hasn't it? In terms of the fight keeps getting made, keeps falling through. But you know, tonight Bellator Euro Series 9, we get to see it happen live. And obviously for yourself, with Irish MMA at the moment, I said it on a video a couple days, I think it was last week on the Cage Warriors preview, that Irish MMA seems to, you know, it's very heavily linked in Bellator at the moment. Obviously, there's not much in the UFC. As a fan of Irish MMA and MMA as a whole, is that something, one, you're happy with, or two, you know, because a lot of fans go, oh, we've just seen Conor McGregor. There's not really this fan belt of or conveyor belt of talent coming through. But if you're looking outside the UFC, there's a plethora of talent.
Yeah, it's good to see, because you see a lot of Irish guys actually getting paid. Like, you know, they're hopping on these Bellator shows. They're keeping active, and they're fighting on one of the biggest stages in the sport. So, yeah, it's more like, if for the average fan who might be looking at the UFC, they might be thinking, "Oh, what's happening here?" But realistically, there's bundles of talent coming out of Ireland, but they're all just in different promotions. You don't like. UFC isn't exactly the be all end all for fighters. So if fans look out, they will find all these fighters. It's good to see, though. I'm enjoying it. I think Irish fighters are like leading the way in Milan at the moment as well, which is mad.
Yeah, this is pretty much Bellator Dublin hosted in Milan, isn't it, rather than a Bellator Milan card?
Basically, yeah. You feel like, I think Frey said it on Twitter yesterday. At this point, he thinks at this point Bellator just messed up the flags.
Yeah, you could forgive him for that one, couldn't you? But you know, it is a shame that this one tonight isn't going in front of that 3 arena as it should probably have done.
Imagine, man! Oh my God, it would have been absolutely amazing if it did. I would have been buzzing. Because I would have loved to have been there. I think I was there at the event that they were originally meant to fight at. It was the fight 227, when Gallagher fought Salazar, and you know, like, Gallagher made that one look easy, but when we lost that fight, it was gutting, to say the least. So yeah, we'll have to settle for watching it on TV.
Yeah, definitely. You know, we bring it back to the Tony Khabib thing. We lost it this year, and we brought in Justin Gaethje, and that gave us, some would say, almost a better fight in terms of, you know, the back and forth. And obviously Gaethje went on to win that, and it threw a spanner in the works. But it does almost take away, doesn't it? Even though you might get a fantastic fight, you know, between Roman and Salazar, you know, it could have been a fantastic fight. It still doesn't quite get that feeling, does it, as the fight you was originally given and promoted?
Well, it was just an easy fight. Realistically, it lasted 35 seconds. Didn't last long at all. Gallagher just submitted him easy as that. It was crazy. So yeah, it's nice that we fight. Like, that fight had the potential to be competitive. So it was nothing like that throwing a spanner in the works. But this one, I think, was going to get made regardless. Thank God it's finally happened. That was all I'll say. I'm absolutely buzzing for it.
Definitely. I'm just going to quickly remove you out and bring you back in. A couple of technical issues that we are live, but as you mentioned there, 3-fight win streak for Gallagher since that loss to Ricky Bandejas. So this is toughest test, you would say, because one, the rivalry, and two, obviously with Bellator there isn't rankings, but it's almost hard to gauge where is a fighter actually at in their career and on their path in Bellator.
What happened there? Did I freeze?
Yeah, just a little bit of live technical issues, nothing too serious.
It's typical. Yeah, three fight win streak. I don't know if it's his toughest fight today. I think that Ricky one would have been, but this one is probably. I think this one could be really. It'd be very. It'd be a competitive fight to say the least. Like Cal's a solid fighter. He's been. We saw him in his Bellator debut. He was absolutely phenomenal, wasn't it? He got. He submitted.
Nathan Grayson.
Submitted Nathan Grayson, and that was coming off the back of a loss for the EFC title down in South Africa. So. Yeah, he's no joke. And people are really high on him. So I'm not sure. I'm unsure of how this fight will go because I'm confident that both of them are very high level athletes. So it's probably one of Gallagher's toughest ones, if not his toughest since Bandejas.
Yeah, and I think that it's almost we see that a lot in Bellator. It's almost like we see it, don't we? We go, how good is this fight? Like MVP is going to face that challenge next week against Ross Houston. It's like a lot of people, when that fight was made, the casual market, if you want to say, was like, oh, why is MVP just fighting another Can? There wasn't that correlation between Ross Houston, being the Cage Warriors welterweight champion. He's not not any Can just being thrown in there to give MVP a good win.
Yeah, very, very true. I can't wait for that one. I can't wait for that one as well. That's for the Paris headliner. Yeah, you're not giving him a can. You're not giving him a can. He's not really been fighting cans at all. I think people have just been saying that he's fought a few that haven't been great. But this one is definitely his toughest fight today. Bellator are really putting on some good cards over him. Milan or just around Europe at the moment as well. Sure, we've had what's it called? We have that. We had the card there on Thursday night, which was absolutely savage as well.
Yeah, it was almost a shame that we lost out on that Paul Daly Derek Anderson fight, didn't we? Because of the weight cutting issues that Paul Daly faced, and obviously we found out now that he's going to have his retirement fight at 175. I'd imagine against the same opponent, but it is interesting, isn't it? Obviously, Kate Jackson was in the main event, promoted up to that main event. Unfortunately, the fight didn't go away. But as you mentioned there, Bellator have put on some good cards, and this European series, I think this is almost their hallmark. I think the European series, in terms of what they're doing, especially we've got Cage Warriors, putting on amazing events, but I think those two are the European leaders at the moment.
Which ones now? These two cards are which?
Bellator Europe and Cage Warriors. I think if you look at it, European MMA's elite, I think they're up there.
Yeah, completely. Well, by a mile, I don't think anyone there's much competing. I think Aries might come close when Aries start putting on more events in Europe. But for the time being, they're definitely leading the way for sure.
100%. Graham Boylan made us laugh. Last week with his tweet about the comparisons in terms of the feeder league in Europe and America. And obviously, he felt that, but. What do you make? Obviously, it's just came out today that Bellator Paris is going to have a 2 event in one night. I think Marcel broke that, didn't he? Or at least made it public. What do you make of that 2 events in one night? Is something that you'd enjoy, or would you rather see it back to back? Because I kind of, I don't think the trilogy would have the same impact if it was 3 events in one night, perhaps.
Yeah, no, that event, 2 events in one night they did it in Dublin once where they had there was basically 2 main events. It's just it's aired on different channels. It's a nightmare to watch. It's a nightmare for watching is all it is really. It's a shame.
Yeah, it's difficult, especially at least 2020 has brought us the fact that it's live on Sky Sports. Because I remember, I think it was Bellator Dublin last year. It was the first Bellator 227 was pre-recorded, and then the Bellator European series was shown live. And then, but the way the card played out, it was very hard to follow as a fan.
Yeah, because you'd be watching one, then you'd be thinking, what's have to happen to the other 4 fights? But you're there trying to avoid spoilers like no tomorrow.
Definitely, but no spoilers today. Do you think? What are you edging to this one? I guess you got to back your Irishman here, James Gallagher. Do you think he's only 23 years old. He's got a big future ahead of him, and obviously he's probably the talisman after Conor McGregor in terms of the stardom, isn't he?
At the moment, yeah, he's probably leading the way. He's headlining Bellator cards nearly every fight now. It's crazy. Yeah, I think it's gonna be a good fight. I think Cal might have a bit of an advantage on the feet with with that reach advantage, and like I don't know. Just from seeing him striking, he's quite good, but he's slick enough on the mat as well. But that's where I feel like Gallagher is going to try and get it to. That reach is going to be difficult for Gallagher to break, but once he gets inside, takes him down, he's just going to be hunting that back and hunting that neck as we've seen before. So, I'll probably back Gallagher to cut the distance, and then take it down and finish it.
Definitely. Do you think, obviously we saw the Bellator bantamweight title change hands. Do you think tonight we're going to see maybe that next number one contender, obviously Sergio Pettis is probably almost on the same level. I think whoever wins tonight will probably face Sergio Pettis perhaps. And I think with COVID, I think it might be easier to book Patchy Mix versus, Juan Archuleta, and Sergio Pettis because they're both in the States, or at least on that side of the globe with how the current situation is.
Yeah, actually, I'd love to see the winner. So winner list, not sure if it's a title shot straight off the bat. I think you kind of maybe one more fight, winner fights Patchy Mix. That'd probably be a solid shout. Or there's a few new fighters after coming in. You could throw them in one of those.
Brett Johns.
Not sure actually. I wouldn't mind seeing Brett Johns against Patchy Mix, or Brett Johns against Juan Archuleta sometime in the future. But Ricky Bandejas as well. That'd be a great one. But there's so many fun fights to make that. But I'd say the winner of this would be ideal for Pettis or Mix.
Definitely, I think Sergio Pettis, he's coming. He's almost stolen the show at that bantamweight level, and I think the fact that he is over on the stateside, it might be easier to put that in the Mohegan Sun Arena, is it that they have over at California, and that the Bellator bubble that they're having at the moment over there. But it's going to be interesting nonetheless. But we move on, of course. Go on.
I was going to say Sergio Pettis is looking big as well. Have you seen his? Have you seen him on Instagram?
I haven't, but I guess he's taken after his big brother. He's going to follow him up the rankings, is he, and up the weight divisions. Obviously, Anthony's gone from featherweight up to welterweight now, so he might be on that same sort of trajectory.
Potentially, we'd see him hop between flyweight, bantamweight, maybe featherweight.
It wouldn't be out the norm, would it? But I think obviously, as we mentioned beforehand, I'll back James Gallagher. I'll throw my prediction for this one. I think he gets it done, but I think it's gonna be interesting, and it's gonna be a good fight nonetheless. It's gonna be interesting to see what they're saying in that empty cage, because obviously these two have had a back and forth now for 12 to 18 months. So there's gonna be some trash talking in there tonight.
I can imagine. So I can imagine if the two will be back and forth, mouthing off. I hope the mic picks up what they're saying.
I hope so too. But do you think, obviously, we mentioned Charlie Ward and Kiefer Crosby are on that main card tonight, two Irish lads. It's almost Bellator Dublin hosted in Milan, isn't it? It's going to be a great night for you lot.
It's crazy. Like, I'd say the Italians are fairly thick because the amount of Irish that are getting on this card is ridiculous. It's just SBG Ireland are all over it. It's mad. Good to see. It's good to see though. It's good to see for all the Irish anyway, because you see them getting experience. You see the likes of Charlie Ward, Kiefer Crosby all getting a step up, all getting to fight. So even the ones further down the card, like I think we have Sinead Kavanagh on there as well, and then there's that Azil. He fights at SBG Ireland as well. So there's loads. It's mad, but it's exciting times for us because kind of there's so many chances for these fighters to break out and kind of take another step towards the title for it.
Definitely, and it's even nicer just looking at it. They're all different weight divisions as well, so it's not like you've got 6 people in bantamweight and you've got almost like there's 6 people vying for one title. You've got it across the board. So maybe a year or two down the line, you're looking at 3 or 4 Bellator champions coming from Ireland across multiple weight divisions.
Yeah, sure. Looking at Pedro Carvalho could win a title there against Patricio Pitbull if he gets through, and that's going to be a very, very tough fight for him. But that's one potential one already. Gallagher has a chance of stepping up with a win here and potentially one more. Kavanagh, she be a very tough test once again, but you could see her stepping up for a title fight. Who else? You could go like Brian Moore. You wouldn't if he goes down and fights Ricky Bandejas as well. I keep saying him. He's it's like he's the gatekeeper for a title fight now at this point.
Definitely. Obviously, over in Northern Ireland, you got Liam McCourt as well, who's close to picking up a featherweight title shot, of course. So, you guys over that side, you got some talent in there. You can't, I think you're probably one of the elite nations now for MMA in terms of the talent you're bringing out of it.
Oh yeah, completely. Like, sure. Look at have you looked at the last few cards? Like between at Bellator 247, Brian Moore looked absolutely savage. Blaine O'Driscoll, how did I forget about that? Blaine O'Driscoll could be, Bellator needs to introduce that 125-pound belt because, the talent's there. You might as well try and grow it and grow the division and see if you can get like a dominant champion in a very competitive division out of it. And Blaine O'Driscoll could be one to kind of lead that as well, or one to even be up there to compete very at the top of the division.
Yeah, you mentioned obviously Bellator 247, very heavy on submissions. Do you think we're going to see anything similar tonight?
I'm flicking through the card now. It's such a shame we lost 3 fights. From what I'm looking now, not sure submission wise. I think the main card is going to be primarily stand up, except for that main event. Then no, I'm not. I'm going to say this one's going to be more TKOs.
Oh, so we're gonna go from one end of the spectrum to the other. So we're gonna have. I'm expecting 5 knockouts by the end of Bellator Milan.
Do you know what? Knockouts. That wouldn't be unheard of either. Should like 11 fights, 5 knockouts. I'm telling you, I'm calling it now, Mitch.
Definitely, yeah. I was just looking here. The amount of talent that he's shown. Obviously, we saw it on Cage Warriors, the trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of talent in Europe as a whole, and obviously we've got Ian Gary and Paul Hughes on that as well, both repping the Irish lot. So it's phenomenal to see, especially because obviously we know the fan base that you and the Irish lot bring. You pack out that 3 arena, and whenever you attach yourself to a fighter, once they become yours, you follow them around the globe.
Yeah, it's a shame we can't do it now. That's one thing I will say. Like, if we could do it now, it'd be. I'd say there'd be a good crowd in Milan.
Yeah, I think there'd be more Irish in Milan now than Italian if we had that. If fans were allowed.
Fans are allowed. I wouldn't be surprised. Not at all.
But definitely, we're rep tonight. Peter in one hand, Guinness in the other. And we're rep the two nations.
Do you know what? Wouldn't be a bad shout. It would be a great way to watch fights.
Definitely. So we mentioned there Charlie Ward. He's up against Andy Manzolo. How are you seeing this one going? Is it going to be a tough contest for him?
Yeah, Manzolo's got a fair bit of experience. I didn't get to watch much of Manzolo. Manzolo's he's 36 now. He's cracking on a little bit. The people he's just going through his record. Some of the people he's fought aren't exactly the most talented in the world. There's 2 wins against Sean Lamass there, but obviously that's a bit of a journeyman, not the best record in the world. Tough fight, but 2 wins there. Some of his losses come against really good guys, but he doesn't seem to step up against guys who are kind of higher levels. So like Justin Moore would be one that he actually stepped up against. Besides that, in recent times, there's nothing to stand out in terms of wins for him. So I'm going to go for Charlie Ward to win this one. But I imagine it's going to be just a scrap on the feet for maybe a round, 2 rounds. Don't think you see it going the distance.
Definitely. And in that lightweight division, Kiefer Crosby up against Charlie Leary again. How are you thinking of this one going?
What's it called? That's a catchweight bout.
Is it a catchweight bout? 160, I guess. 165.
160. Yeah, 160 between Charlie Leary and Kiefer Crosby. That would be a really good fight, actually. That one, I think that one's gone under the radar just a little bit. Like Kiefer Crosby is always entertaining to watch. He likes to stand. He sets a good pace to a fight. He's fairly sharp with his striking, so I love watching him strike. So I can imagine that's going to be a big factor in this fight. Charlie Leary, then he's been up there fighting for like top level guys for ages now. Like I think he had that loss to Ottman Azaitar there in Brave at one point. Then he went on, beat Scatese. He's kind of been split in terms of wins and losses there since 2017. So he's last one, won one, last one, won one, and so on and so forth. So it'll be interesting to see how he kind of comes into this. because he's coming off a loss.
Yeah, if you're looking at your statistics and your trajectory, you feel sorry for Kiefer Crosby tonight because obviously, as you mentioned there, win loss tonight.
Yeah.
If the pattern stays the same, he should be getting a win, Charlie Leary here. But Kiefer Crosby, he's some talent. He's someone. He's probably second down if you're looking at the star power. He's probably next in line after James Gallagher, Kiefer Crosby, because he does seem to be able to put in a good audience.
He pulls in a fair amount of. There's a fair amount of support now. People see, and realistically, you could say he's, if it wasn't for that illegal knee in his fight in America, that would he could potentially be undefeated. So that was obviously a massive shame for him, but something that he's learned from. His last fight was an absolute scrap as well. So it's I think it's a mix between kind of his personality that's really likable and his fighting ability, which is really, really exciting and puts on a show that people always love to see. I'd definitely put him as probably second.
There we are. Yeah. So we're just struggling here internet-wise, I think. Yeah, we're all good. We're back. But no, definitely. Now, I think Kiefer Crosby would get the win here. I think, obviously the experience is in Charlie Leary's favour, but 16-11 is, you look at that, especially as an outsider and more the casual fan, you look at there going, I'm going to put my money on Kiefer Crosby here. But again, slightly different weight class as usual. It could be a different outcome.
Charlie Leary's no easy fight. This is it's a competitive fight for Kiefer for sure. I wouldn't be putting my money for certain on anyone, but I'm not sure how it would go, but I'll probably lean towards Kiefer.
Potential fight of the night, perhaps?
That or the Cone. I think all those main card fights have that potential. It's crazy, really. Yeah, do you know what? I'll go for potentially, yeah.
Definitely. And obviously you mentioned there Sinead Kavanagh closing out the prelims. Again, a top talent in featherweight. Someone, we look. I think this is where Bellator are striding as well, because obviously UFC, we have a featherweight division, but again, there's no rankings for it. It's not, you can't really plan now. Obviously, Felicia Spencer, took on Amanda Nunes for the title, and obviously Megan Anderson is very soon. But I think, especially with Cyborg, you got Julia Budd, you got Leah McCourt, as you mentioned, and Sinead Kavanagh. You got these, you know where you're standing with that featherweight division in Bellator.
Yeah, it's kind of. There's obviously with that the lack of rankings is just quite frustrating. But that there's always going to be a fight at that division, which is always a positive thing. And there's going to be people to fight. Like the UFC's division is just kind of all over the shop. There's not even rankings for it, and they actually have official rankings, which is, I can imagine, ridiculously frustrating for those fighters.
Yeah.
It's good to see Sinead Kavanagh back in there now. She's had a tough out time. Won her last fight against the former title challenger, I'm pretty sure it was, in Olga Rubin. I think Olga fought against. Olga fought.
Yeah, Olga Rubin.
She lost. Olga lost to Sinead in her last fight. And that
definitely. She does have She of course has a win over Zara Thane, of course, who has 2 losses against Megan Anderson and Alicia Spencer. So where Sinead Kavanagh ranks. If you obviously MMA math isn't something that's too reliable, but if you want to go across that sort of path, Sinead Kavanagh has a fantastic win there.
She does, and then she was robbed. I think that Arlene Blanco fight, I think she was robbed of a decision there, and that Leslie Smith one too. I'd say Sinead Kavanagh put a beating on Leslie Smith. That was a good scrap. It was a good scrap now, but I'd agree with Sinead Kavanagh at that point when she was saying that she was robbed of the decision there, which I feel like she was.
Yeah, and definitely, that changes, what is in that period, four losses out of 5, and that would be, only 3 losses in 4, and then you're on a 2-fight win streak then. So it does change, we call it a game, but it's not a game, the past and the chapters of the career can change in a judge's decision, can't it?
Yeah. Oh, completely. Like you can change. You could be the reason behind someone not getting a title shot, like just a poor judge's decision, or just because someone saw a fight differently, which is obviously quite frustrating for a fighter. But I don't know really. I think it's maybe that's what that Dana White saying goes, like, don't leave it to the judges. But if the judges did their job, or if they scored it how maybe rules would have, or how if they scored it how most people would have, or how you'd expect them to, then we wouldn't have the issue. But alas, we do. But that could be just down to the fact that they're seeing it from a different perspective to the rest of us.
Definitely. And when are you expecting to come from her opponent, Katharina Lena? Of course, 3 losses are the last 4, but that is against the Sarah Kaufman in Invicta, Pani Kianzad in the Ultimate Fighter, and Lisa Verzosa in Invicta, of course. So again, very tough losses and tough opponents that she's faced in her recent career.
She has, yeah. She's been no slouch. Her last one was a bantamweight, though, which makes me feel like she's and so was the title challenge against Sarah Kaufman in Invicta. I feel like she's more of a bantamweight, and now she's stepping back up. Like, I remember that fight against Pani. Pani's also an actual 135er. And so I think she's just doing that step up either to get a fight or just maybe to challenge herself a bit more. But I don't think she's a 145er man. I'd see her more as a bantamweight. So this step up is it's a bit of a shock, but I think she's going to get a bit of a rude awakening from Sinead Kavanagh in this one. She might.
Yeah, do you think maybe the fact that, because as far as I know, you don't see too many bantamweight bouts in Bellator, do you think this might be she's looked, weighed up her options and gone, I can probably get, if a couple wins, I might be looking into the title picture there at Bellator, whereas if I go to, say, UFC, she might not climb those bantamweight rankings as quickly, maybe, with all due credit to her. And obviously, we're coming off this COVID situation. Maybe she looked at, we don't know when this fight was booked. I'd imagine within the last month or two. It might be the fact that she's taken the fight on quick notice, perhaps. Yeah,
so it could have been fascist. She might want to do she didn't want to do a weight cut, and she knew there was a fight there and it was offered, and it just worked out. Like, she's fought at featherweight before, but her success success seems to be in that bantamweight, despite having a win at featherweight as well. But I would have seen her as more of a bantamweight, especially since I think the fight I saw was the Pani Kianzad fight, and I would have thought she was a natural 135 from just looking at that fight. Kavanagh then fits that featherweight kind of class very, very well. She suits it, and she fights. I think that's her best performances. That's her best performances at that. So I don't think that Ellenor will be able to compete with her. Hot take.
Yeah, we run that one back when it doesn't quite go Sinead Kavanagh's way tonight. We run that clip back on Twitter. So yeah, make sure you got your Premiere Pro out, and you've clipped up between about 27 minutes and 30 seconds and 28 minutes. But no, I think I think it's all good. I think it's gonna be a cracking fight, and it'd be interesting to see it. Obviously, we move on to the last one now. Of course, fighting out of Manchester alumni Kane Mousah against Alessandro Botti. Again, this one's on the prelims, of course.
Yeah.
This one's an exciting one because it's got a bit of the emotional factor to it. It's not, you're not just watching two fighters compete. Kane Mousah fighting out of Manchester. Of course, we've spoken to him, of course, a couple of times. I met him at Cage Warriors 1 and 2, fantastic guy, and he's had a fantastic 2020 with launching his brand Badder. Of course, you got to rep the brand.
Oh, Jesus Christ! Look at you.
Hey, you got to rep it on this one, haven't you?
There may be sometimes a bit of bias in terms of Irish fighters from me, but my God, I think you taught me with those Manchester fighters. Which, Kane's sound. He's a good fighter too. I remember. I think his last fight was that. I don't know if he's fought since then. I must double check that now. 2 seconds. His fight against
lost against Rafael Macedo.
Rafa Macedo who fights out of Sweden, if I'm correct. Brazilian fighter. That was actually a decent fight. Could have gone either way. Depends on how you score it. I could have seen it go either way. Good fight. I was at it. It was an enjoyable one as well. Kind of had the crowd weren't exactly reacting as you would if it was set in, let's say, London or Manchester, Liverpool, even Dublin. You would have got a better reaction. But good scrap. So I'm excited for this one out to see how he fares against Bobby.
Definitely. I think that was the one I was mentioning earlier, because that was Bellator Milan, but he fought on Bellator 230 on that on that second event in that one night, and that's the one where you're looking there going, I think I was there going, oh, Kane Mousah fight tonight, let's go watch Kane Mousah fight, and then you find out that it's actually already happened a little earlier. It's one of those ones that catches you by surprise.
You're there waiting for him to come on, but then like look at Twitter and someone's after tweeting the result, and you're like, oh, I was looking forward to that.
Yeah, we've all been there, haven't we? We've all been there with that one. Obviously, he's been through the ringer himself. He's 12-3, but he's got lost to Mark Casey, who we all know is a top fighter. After that, he went on a 3-fight win streak, lost to Robert Whiteford, and then another 2-fight win streak after that. So, fighting out of Manchester, top team, of course. He is a top talent. Obviously, we see, fighting out of Manchester anyway. We've got the likes of Mokaev, we've got Brendan Loughnane fighting as well, or looking for a fight at the moment, should we say. Yeah. Almost like Ireland, we've got an absolute hotbed of talent at the moment.
Yeah, you're also producing, it's funny, there's like clusters of areas that are producing ridiculous amount of talent. Like London Shoe Fighters, another gym that have a lot of fighters coming out of Manchester, so between Manchester top two, there's an endless list there now for the Manchester teams, or Manchester gyms even. But yeah, you're producing some serious talent, like between Kane, Mokaev, oh god, Brendan Loughnane, Leroy Murphy, who else can I think from the top of my head? So many of them. A few amateurs that are coming through now as well.
A lot of cage warriors last week were coming out of Manchester as well.
So it's good. It's good to see for, I guess, the Manchester scene, and I guess where your interest would very heavily lie.
Yes, 100%. He faces Alessandro Botti, of course, who's coming off a 3-loss streak in himself, with those being against Alfie Davis most recently and Terry Brazier before that, and Avner Loveras before that, Italian cage fighting. Is this one you're expecting to go Kane Mousah's way?
Going from just stats, and I would look at Kane, and from seeing Kane, I've watched a few of Kane's fights actually live. I've been lucky to see him quite a few times live. And yeah, I think he's up there in terms of UK talent and English talent. So I would lean towards him from what I've seen of him. I haven't seen as much of Alessandro Botti, but I think I saw, which fight was it? The Terry Brazier. Watched Terry Brazier fight, the one he lost. So obviously I didn't get to see his full talent, I guess, in that sense.
Yeah, that's a very good way of putting it, I guess, because obviously sometimes you might see them, but they might only showcase you 3-4 minutes of their body of work, and they might not be on the right end of that.
Exactly, yeah. So like between the fights I've seen of him in Bellator, I've not been has not exactly been the most complimentary of displays for him, but you never know. COVID's kind of popped up this situation where fighters are having tough times training, maybe weight cutting, and there's a variety of factors. Kane has to travel over there as well, so that could also play a factor. Botti's fighting in Italy, so he's in his own country, home turf, not as difficult, not as much traveling to do. A variety of factors, but I think I can imagine it'll be a fairly well contested fight. But I lean towards Kane just from watching him, but I wouldn't be 100% on that one at all.
Definitely. Obviously, my bias means I have to go with Kane Mousah on that one, of course. And it's interesting. I see Botti. His nickname is Bad, and obviously you got Kane Mousah reffing badder. Obviously he's called the Danger, but we also have to mention that because he's been phenomenal outside. Obviously we've got this COVID situation, but he's not been able to fight. But he's built up this incredible brand for himself, which you don't see a lot of fighters doing. It's almost become more important to have yourself a brand outside, and especially a career is short, isn't it? He's got something now where he can build himself a life with that. Yeah,
your career can end in one fight. Realistically, like you could end in a training session if something goes wrong. Being realistic, like obviously those chances are very minimal, but in fighting, like you could suffer something. You could suffer an injury, a freak accident. That's any time by sparring, fighting, anything. And that could completely halt you. So the fact that he has something outside of fighting to go, that is thriving, is very handy to have and good to have, and probably a bit more motivating because he knows that he has that security to fall back on if anything goes wrong, that he can focus a lot more on fighting and actually trying to try to have both of them go as successful as each other and have it hand in hand.
100%. I think that's a good place to wrap it up on there. Obviously, Bellator is well and back, truly, and we've got some phenomenal fights coming as well. They're scheduled very packed for the next couple of weeks, isn't it? I think we've got a Cyborg, we've got Gegard Mousasi versus Lima happening for the middleweight title, of course, and obviously breaking history next week in Paris.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. Can't wait for that. We actually had that interview. Well, Arian had that interview with Ross Houston that we have out that will be pumping out again throughout the week in the build up to that fight. So that's going to be a cracking card. I'm actually really looking forward to it. And if I'm correct, there's fans going to be at that one as well.
Yes, because obviously there was the promotion of selling tickets, so I'd imagine there's a 30% capacity. I'd imagine, which is better than nothing. It's gonna be weird when we start hearing those cheers and boos coming from real people now, isn't it?
It depends how many cheers and boos we actually end up hearing, but it depends, how separate they are from each other, how well the arena retains the noise of people like shouting, and if the fans actually are loud. Because some countries that you see them go to, for the most part, they can be very quiet. I remember I was in the Netherlands and they were dead quiet until the last 3 fights, and then it erupted, and it's amazing when it erupts. But you'd miss it because you go to places like I think I've been at Cage Warriors, Liverpool, Bellator in Dublin, and it's always a great atmosphere almost from the off. For maybe 2 fights in, it's usually amazing. So hopefully we get that, and the lack of fans doesn't drain out the sound too much. Yeah,
it's gonna be interesting because obviously and I'm kind of glad that MMA hasn't done this with the fake crowd noise. Obviously, it's happening in football, basketball. MMA have gone, we don't need that. We're a gladiator sport. We'll have it in silence and hear the punches connect with each other and the kicks. You're going to hear that in the full high definition. So it has been nice in that sense. But it's going to be interesting because obviously, especially as a fan, you might get a little cocky and be like, right, I'm gonna throw I might not in a bad way, but give the guy who's fighting some shit. But when you can probably turn around and you got a 2 meter circle around you, you might be less confident about saying something in the
arena. I think fans talking shit is going to be the least of a fighter's trouble.
Yeah, very true. Very true. Imagine it. No,
imagine that. It's Jesus, be wild.
Yeah, definitely. But it's been nice because it'll be weird, obviously. As you mentioned, it's going to be weird. Obviously, it's MVP and Ross Houston. It'll be interesting to see how many Brits are over there because obviously the quarantine rules that you have traveling to certain destinations can be interesting. Whether it's going to be a very much a French crowd coming, as you'd probably imagine, with it being in Paris and their first professional MMA bout at least. It's going to be interesting to see what the crowd is like in terms of dynamic and their atmosphere.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that works. It's kind of like it's all new territory for kind of mainstream media, mainstream MMA. So it's cool because we actually finally get to see the place, welcome MMA and as well as welcome fans into an arena, considering everything that's going on. So it's going to be a great one. And the card looks solid as well. I think it'll deliver. That is one thing I think it'll really deliver.
100%. The fact that Ross Houston's making his debut there, it means that's as much as a compliment to him as you can give him, because obviously it's his debut. To put him straight in that main event slot against someone who's renowned as renowned as MVP is, that's all you need to know about Ross Houston, isn't it? He's certainly no mug.
No, Jesus, and he's not. Anyone who I've seen people on Twitter call him a candy. And thinking, oh, who's this lad that he's fighting? It's like, what are you on about? It's like Ross Houston's an absolutely amazing talent. Like how he wasn't signed to the UFC after that, after his draw with Nicholas Dalby is beyond me. I thought he'd get signed, snapped up instantly. It's crazy to think he's the talent for it, but I guess Bellator came along, so I wouldn't call it. I guess someone would call it a step up in terms of a fight, but it's not exactly a step up. He's more than ready for it. It's not as if he's out of his depth at all. He's actually, I think, well within his depth to be fighting MVP. It's probably a really competitive fight.
Yeah, with all due credit, we know how tough Nicholas Dalby is, and the fact that fight with that draw got him re-signed to the UFC as well. So it's not like he's been fighting cans and Cage Warriors either, is it? It's not like Ross Houston's been padding his record. Even we saw that bloodbath There was only one
Yeah.
reason that got stopped, and it was because the canvas wasn't safe anymore for the two competitors. It's not like they were half-assed in their fight, was it?
Man, Ross Houston was like he's champion for a reason. Like, you know, he's not a slouch. He was an absolute, like, he dominated one promotion's welterweight division. So, you know, there's a lot of people just a lot of people suspecting that haven't actually seen him. So yeah, it's good to kind of see him get a fight like this.
Definitely. And I guess the annoying thing there is almost is he doesn't win, does he? If he beat MVP, everyone just goes, or a lot of the people go around, well, MVP's just not that good then. It's not like they go, Ross Houston's that good. They turn around and go, MVP's just not that good then.
I think some of that is just down to the fact that, you know, I think some of that's just because people like to jump on that, they're not that good now. Because when there's so much hype behind a fighter, people love to derail. When that hype train's derailed, or if it gets derailed, people love to hop on and it's like, well, he's not as good now. When realistically, he is very well, a very talented fighter. I think it's a win-win situation, personally. Like, he gets a main event slot, gets a good paycheck, it's a really good fight. And if he wins, like, if he loses, it's not a spectrum, it just shows how good MVP is. If he wins, then he's like, oh, now you're in contention for like a really high level fight and potential a title fight in a coming fight or two, maybe.
Yeah, 100%. We saw, MVP lost to Douglas Dean. He went on to win that tournament. So we know a win over the MVP, you're probably two wins away at least.
Probably a win, two wins, yeah,
most, maybe. Say.
Yeah,
but,
at most.
Yeah, it's definitely a much closer, and it's probably played a part into it. It's definitely a much closer sort of route to the title for Bellator than it was. Could you imagine if he went? We see Khamzat Chimaev and the likes in the UFC. The two paths you could take, the risk and reward could be a lot better in Bellator than it is in UFC.
In terms of speed, going fast track into the title.
Potentially, yes.
Yeah, potentially, because it's like they recognise how good the talent has been outside, and how well they match up to the talent that's already within Bellator. So it's easier to fast track them. When in the UFC, there's just I think they're given a bit of time. It's very difficult unless you're someone like Justin Gaethje. It's very hard to just jump straight into the deep end like that.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see, when Michael Chandler gets his first fight, who they give him up against, and the talent. Because obviously he's looking at the top 6 of the lightweights already.
Yeah, he is. It's mad to see, because obviously he came from Bellator. Now he's eyeing up top 5, top 6, even a title fight if the opportunity arises. So just shows the level that some of the Bellator fighters are as well, and some of the Bellator champions. And we probably could see Ross Houston or MVP become a champion in the future too, and be at that similar level, but potentially stay in Bellator.
Definitely, I think that's the perfect place to wrap up there, guys. Make sure to give Quilter a follow on Twitter, of course. He does a lot of the European side of MMA in terms of Tapology as well. So, that has become the home for me now as well. Going to Tapology, doing all the research on there. So yes, make sure to give them a follow on that, of course, to stay up to date with a lot of the European MMA side as well. Of course, tonight we are back for UFC Holm versus Aldana. So make sure we're back for that live show, of course. So make sure to hit that subscribe button. We're on the road to 10K. Make sure to give this video a like, and we'll see you guys on the next video.